Hi, and welcome to the Dingers Podcast, episode 59. This is your host, Mitch. I'm here with my boys, Jake, Jeff, and Kevin. How are you guys tonight?
Not bad. How is everybody? Pretty typical Monday for me.
Yeah.
Well,
4 more
doing
days.
well.
Doing well. Well, Mitch and I survived conference last week, so this week is looking pretty good.
That's why we didn't do a episode last week. So we're like, man, late nights, conference 2 nights a week, and then all day on Friday. So we're like, I don't know if we can do this season wrap last week. Good thing the Cubs weren't in the playoffs because it was a long week. It was a long week.
Sure.
This episode is presented to you by Chi City Sports. If you're interested in all things Chicago sports, this is your place. Go check out all the great forums, all the great podcasts. I mean, we have a Bulls podcast with Chi City Sports. The Bulls are looking pretty good this season. They're gonna be legit. I watched one of their games. They're gonna be fun to watch. So go check out the Bulls podcast. I mean, the White Sox are in the playoffs. Go check out the White Sox podcast. And the Bears, hey, they won another game this week. Is that 2?
I'm stocking up on Bears gear, guys.
There you go.
Yes. Good idea.
This episode is also sponsored by Toppling Goliath. So if you have your beers, let's crack our beer for the off season. I'm drinking a Pompey Beach tonight. So
Nice.
Get your Toppling Goliath, which is at Benny's. We just found out it's at Benny's Beverage Depot. Also the champagne provider of your Chicago Cubs.
The official champagne provider.
Yeah, and Des Moines folks, Toppling Goliath is going to be coming near you soon. They're opening up a brewery in Des Moines.
So you can go check out your iCubs and then go hit up Toppling Goliath Brewery in Des Moines.
Or
we're
vice
excited.
versa.
Yeah,
Or before, after, and wherever you need it.
Well, this is our Cubs year in review episode. So we'll be looking back a little bit on the season, a little bit of the highlights that kind of we enjoyed for the season. Look back at our predictions. If you even remember, I found my sheet of the predictions that we made at the beginning of the year. We weren't close on any of them, really. So let's just start with like your year in review and tell us your year in review, like review it in like 3 sentences. And then one highlight that you took from this year. So, Jeffrey, let's start with you.
Well, my year in review, we started out as a dumpster fire. We got bright and sunshiny in May, and then we went off the rails, and it was like a cattle truck going off an overpass. We sold everybody, made some trades, picked up some stuff, got some money. Saw some bright spots and some young players and an old rookie in Patty Wisdom. I think we finished the year, in decent shape. I mean, Nico Horner spent the majority of the season on the injured reserve list, battled through a quad injury, a hamstring injury, but
oblique.
I think the future is bright in Chicago. They make some intelligent moves with their money this offseason.
The keyword intelligent. That's going to be our word today. We're going to steal it from Jed.
I think the season should be pretty decent next year, depending on what they bring in to complement what's already there.
What was your highlight of this season?
I think Patty Wisdom breaking Chris Bryant's rookie home run record.
Awesome.
I mean, the guy kind of came out of nowhere.
I was at that game. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All
right, Kevin, what about you? Your review and then your highlight.
I'd say my review starts off with, remember all those players we talked crap about all preseason?
Oh, God.
Do you remember all those players? Do you remember how all of them hit really well in May?
Oh, God.
And
Man,
then we
Duffy.
were like, this is going to be awesome. We got Duffy, got Marisnik. they're all going nuts.
I remember when Duffy made the opening day roster, like, what the heck is this guy doing on the opening day roster? And Nico Horner isn't. What the heck?
Right.
Yeah.
And Horner was playing at that time, and they were all hitting. And then they all got hurt. And then everybody else stopped hitting. I don't know. I was just rethinking about that, thinking about that before the season episode when we were like, and at third base or wherever, there's this Duffy guy who might play now and again, and got Marisnik, but we really hope Hap can just hold down center field and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that was kind of the year in review was us at the beginning of the season. Oh, and Kimbrel. I think we thought he would have like 9 saves on the season because he was pitching so horribly.
Yes.
And then he ends up being lights out for us when you put him in the 9th inning.
Yep.
I'd say my highlight, if I have to choose something different than Jeff, is actually Frank Schwindel. I mean, we trade off Rizzo, and it's like, okay, well, who's going to play first base? I guess we're just going to rotate around. And then Schwindel comes in. Frank the Tank is nuts, is hilarious to watch play with all the tank stuff and the pointing back at the dugout and everything. I mean, he brought a lot of energy knowing he's coming in, a later rookie, and going to town. He was fun to watch.
Yep. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, I think to sum the season up, it felt like 2 seasons. I think that obviously after the deadline, it just felt like a distinct new season started, and it made the summer feel like a really, really damn long summer. It made the season feel extra long this year, and sometimes in a good way, but I'd say mostly in a bad way. I told myself after the deadline, I'm still going to watch every Cubs game, and that, my friends, was a lie. I stayed pretty plugged in. I watched highlights, still went to a couple more games to end the season. Definitely the Wisdom rookie home run record was a highlight, seeing that in person. But I would say the biggest highlight of the season for me was right before the All-Star break. God, I can't remember who we were playing, but I was at Wrigley sitting up in the 400 level because that's where my buddies bought tickets before the stadium opened all the way up. And Bryant came in off the bench. He was injured, whatever he was doing. It was like quad or something. Everybody had a hamstring injury. Let's say it was that.
Guess hamstring. It's probably
So he comes off the bench. It's I think bases loaded, and he hits a bench or a bases clearing double out to the left center field Ivy. Yep. And I sat there and thought, I was like, this is the last time I'm going to see Bryant hit an RBI, get an RBI base knock in person, at least for the Cubs. And there's a little bit of magic to that. I filmed it, tweeted it, did some numbers on Twitter. That was fun. But yeah, that was a highlight. And then of course, joining you guys, getting to be in on the Dingers podcast too. So thanks again.
Welcome to the fam.
Yeah, I'm with you. It kind of felt like we saw almost 3 different teams play this year for the Cubs. It was like we had the spring training team, then we had the months of May through June team. Then we had the good Cubs team that played there for a little bit, and then we lost Duffy and Horner, and then we kind of came back, and then the trade deadline happened. Then we had a whole new team to kind of deal with, and we were getting all these new guys. And I think right away after the trade deadline, what kind of helped, I think, for me to kind of brace through it was the Ortega. It was like the 2 days after, I think that Sunday, he had 3 dingers in that game. And that kind of like, okay, there is other guys that we can enjoy and watch. Yeah, it sucks that our heart's getting ripped out because we've had these guys that we've loved for so long, but we can learn to love new guys. I think that was kind of helpful for me with this. But I mean, the biggest highlight for me this season was going to opening day 2.0, watching them beat the Cardinals with my son, going to the very first game of his at Wrigley, very first baseball game ever that he got to go to. And then seeing Rizzo's 14 pitch at bat ending with a dinger, like that was just, it was something special. And that's something like kids still talk about it today. And so that's something that I'm going to remember. We can't not mention the Javi play. I think that will be something that we will always relate this season. The pre-trade deadline, we'll remember the Javi play and just the ridiculousness of that. But yeah, that was kind of my favorite moments throughout this season. But let's get into a little bit of more Cubs news. Jed Hoyer had his end of the year press conference. Like we said pre-show, he said a lot without saying anything at all. And you can tell it was almost the scripted line that he kept on saying of spend intelligently, they're going to be aggressive in the free agency, but they're going to spend intelligently, basically saying that we're not going to go spend big money on top free agents. That's what I took out of it. What do you guys kind of take out of that spend intelligently type phrase?
I think it gave him a way out in case they don't sign anybody. Then he can say, we didn't believe in anybody. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, I think that's really too bad too, because it does feel like it's a purposeful phrasing, because then later on he can say, well, there wasn't any intelligent spending we felt like we could do. Or later on, if they do happen to sign somebody, they can be like, well, this felt like the intelligent thing to do now. And so you can kind of swing it either way. And I would say the whole press conference seemed like a very good way to say a lot of words that don't come away with a lot of meaning. And it was it's kind of one of those, if you ever want to look at how to public speak and not have to be definitive about what you're speaking, you did a really good job in regards to that.
Yep.
What about you, Jake?
Yeah, I think so. As you guys are talking through that, though, I realize it's not an infallible statement, right? Because one of the I was listening to the Athletics podcast, just to kind of give like a rundown again of like, what was said. And intelligent spending a few seasons ago would have been signing DJ LeMahieu to a 2-year, $30 million contract, right? So a lot of it is, hindsight being 2020, but you could even say you could have gotten more out of John Lester for less than what you signed Arrieta for. You could have gotten something out of Schwarber. Now, granted, the change of scenery for Schwarber, could have been the difference maker for him. And shouts to him going off in the playoffs. We had a hilarious play at first base the other day. That was a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, I think I don't know. What I'm expecting is that there are going to be a lot of short-term contracts, a lot of, sign and flips probably.
Yep.
I really hope we're able to get some pitcher. I know we've kind of talked about it, Mitch. I'm into the Syndergaard deal. I'm into going all out for Syndergaard. Jeff's shaking his head, but the thing is, if you can get him on a reclaim, you've got the money right now. You sign him to a 2-year contract. It makes sense for the window that we're in right now. It rebuilds his value, and if
he hasn't pitched
it makes
in
sense for
5
us to take
years.
on. It's been that long. Maybe cut that in half. But I still think it's worthwhile to take a look at guys like that. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if the pro scouts can make some magic happen with some under the radar signings.
Yeah, this kind of leads in. We will go back to the press conference, but Jed has also announced that they're going to be deep in the GM search of hiring the general manager. And I think that needs to be made before they make any real commitment to any players. They need to have 2 guys. Like, that's why Jed and Theo work so well. You need to have another voice in the room, so you're not the only one, so you can bounce ideas off of. And having somebody intelligent that can kind of match, like Jed could match Theo. They need somebody in the room that can match Jed. And so this GM search is going to be critical of, like, where do we go? One of the names on the list, this Carlos Rodriguez, I really like, from the Rays, vice president of player development and international scouting. You've seen what the Rays have done with hardly any money. We're not the Rays. We can go spend money. And so, like, that's where I think from everything that he's done there, and he's been there for a while, the Rays have made the right moves to get the most out of what they have. And you see it every single year. They're right there, and then they'll take 1 or 2 years maybe that they're off, and then they're right back in it. And so that has to do with scouting and getting players and developing them. So if that's the pick, there's a couple other names. There's a guy from Cleveland. I think there was actually 2 guys from Cleveland that's on the list, and then one guy from, I can't remember what organization. There's another guy, but that needs to be made first. Now, I'm with you, Jake, a little bit of, like, we need to spend, and you're going to see the Cubs probably spend on that 2-3 year deals, reclaiming guys, seeing what you're going to get out of them. That's kind of like the spend intelligently. They want to he said over and over that the main focus is going to be pitching. Pitching is going to be the priority, and they want to get guys that can throw strikes and miss bats. And you look at our guys, we had a lot of guys that pitched to contact, and that didn't play out too well. And so you want some power arms. The hard thing is, in today, to kind of find that, it's gonna be kind of hard.
Yeah.
Syndergaard is that. I mean, he checked all those boxes that he talked about. Syndergaard checked it all. Now I'm torn with Syndergaard because I said something to Jake. I was like, when was the last time the Cubs actually had to face Syndergaard? I bet it was the 2015 playoffs because it was like, it's been a while.
I'll tell you what.
Since I've seen him pitch.
Strikeouts are fascist, and they need to find somebody that can throw some ground ball out. Seriously, it
Hey,
seems like
lucky for you, he's got a power sinker, so that's what you're looking for.
I tell you what, it seems like the harder guys are throwing, and the amount of pitches they throw in a game, it seems like the longevity isn't there for these guys. Like, they're always straining something.
Well, it's funny thing you just said that. If you follow on Twitter Marcus Stroman, which he's a free agent, he's a guy that I would love the Cubs to target.
Yeah,
he might price himself out of the Cubs market, but he just tweeted out today. He's like, the reason why I am going to be a pitcher that can last a long time is because I know how to pitch, and I know how to kind of dial it back a little bit to be able to not throw as hard as I can every single pitch, because I don't need to. I can get guys out with my stuff. I don't need to overpower them every single time. But when I need to, I can bear down and do it. And that was one of his tweets. Just, I think it was yesterday, because he was talking about playoff pitchers, and then like that's all you're seeing is 99, 99, 98. It's like,
I probably would have been interested in like Justin Verlander if Dusty Baker hadn't ruined another arm. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, as if he didn't have, like 3,500 innings under his belt before Dusty Baker.
It was Dusty Baker. In spring training, no less.
Yeah, but if you want to go watch the press conference, I mean, it's an hour and a half long. It's on Cubs Twitter. It's on YouTube, Cubs YouTube. Go check it out. But yeah, we basically gave you the highlights. He did talk a little bit about Steele, Alzolay, and Thompson being being there in not necessarily the rotation, but they're going to play a pivotal role in our pitching staff, and talked a little bit about Braylon Marquez. They've already said that he's going to be ready to go for next year, and that he's going to be a pitching weapon, not necessarily a starter. He kept on saying that, like, he wouldn't tell you exactly what he was going to do. Same with like spending. Will we get back to the 2019 spending and be the top spender in baseball? He didn't. He wouldn't give you a straight answer with any of that. But yeah, go and check it out.
Weren't there two coaches also that aren't coming back?
Yeah.
Yes. Mike Borzello is no longer returning. That's one I was really surprised about.
That hurts. I think that really hurts. I think Borzello, if you've watched, the Cubs have a really great documentary, mini docs on their YouTube where they interview Borzello, and you see how he prepares pitchers in between games, and he's really important to that pitching infrastructure. So I'm really curious to see how they fill that hole. I'm not worried for Borzello. He's going to be picked up somewhere, and he's going to be an asset to some team for sure.
Right.
And then Anthony Iapose is moving on. That was one where they didn't fire him. They just didn't issue him another contract, kind of like Joe Madden. He's one that's like, well, there's another Cubs hitting coach biting the dust. So I think we're every like 2 or 3 years, one goes down. So I'm looking at, in about 15 to 20 years, I have a good chance at getting my name in the hat to being able to be the next Cubs hitting coach. So
don't let your dreams be dreams, man.
Yep.
Is Chili Davis available again?
Actually,
I think he is. Mets let him go. So yeah, I mean the Borzello one. That's one I think it's going to affect him. I think it's going to really hurt. I mean, morale. I think a lot of players turned to him and trusted him, and he's a big voice in that.
Interesting, especially to see how Hendricks struggled at the end of the season. I think he probably leaned on Borzello a ton. I mean, there was the specific video that I'm talking about. They broke down his Maddox game. His whatever, like 83, 73, maybe even pitch shutout, and they talked about Borzello and game planning. And so you kind of get to see the relationship that those two had a little bit based on their interviews, separate interviews. But yeah, that's especially tough when you see who's supposed to be our ace right now coming off of a rough season that he just had.
Yep. Well, let's look into the offseason. So here's the Cubs payroll, what I've kind of broken down. So guaranteed money is $40 million for next year. Pre-arbitration, let's say that there's $15 million there. Arbitration eligible, let's say there's $17.5 million. Money owed elsewhere, $3 million. So that means that we're left with $17 million on the payroll for next year, or $75 million on the payroll for next year. Right? The luxury tax, before you have to pay in or go over the luxury tax this last year was $210 million. There you would have to take a hit, and then you would have to pay a little bit in. So that's pretty low. We have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah. Out of that 40 million guaranteed, is 22 of that to Jason Hayward?
Quite a bit of it is Jason Hayward. Yes.
Not like a guy that hits the ball to second base.
Yep. So how are we going to go about spending this money? There's a lot of names out there. This is a big free agent class. And even if you're watching the playoffs right now, there's a lot of guys that are playing in the playoffs this year that are going to be free agents. So who are we going to go after? Let's start with pitching, because that's going to be the big need of this offseason. I think who we're going to try to go after. Who are some names that you see that would be an intelligent investment in our money to go after?
Well, I'd try to go after John Gray or Scherzer as your top, as your ace. And then, even though I can't stand him because he played for the Reds and the Brewers, Wade Miley. He's serviceable.
He's one that I put on there because he does have a club option. So, but if the Reds do not pick him up, I was like, he is the number one guy, because I think he would eat up innings. He's kind of reinvented himself this last year. He pitched great for the Reds this year. That I would love to see. I think you could get him pretty decent money wise. He could fill into that number 3, number 2 spot in the rotation. It would take a little pressure off of Steele, Thompson, and Alzolay. I don't know. I think that would be a good one. Now, a lot could change because Reds could pick up the option, but that's one that I thought would be a good one. What about you, Kevin? Who are you going after for pitching?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I got some jokes. I mean, we could go after Zach Davies.
Why not? He'd be cheap.
I hear he does a good job through the lineup one time or so. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I just saw the Facebook user pop in who wish you were watching your team play in the playoffs. Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is one of those, is it intelligent? I'm not so sure, but I'd love to see Max Scherzer.
What a coward. Put your face
Facebook
on
user.
there.
Right.
Thanks, Zuckerberg.
I think Kevin Gossman might be an interesting one if he gets sprung free and wants to come towards middle of America. I kind of like him. I don't know. I'm kind of with Jake a little bit. I wouldn't mind the Syndergaard thing.
I just think it's the more I look at this list, the more I feel like there's really nothing there that does it for me. And Syndergaard is arguably has the highest ceiling and keeping in mind his age as well. Mitch, you texted me last week asking what I thought about a Verlander deal.
Yep.
And I think that Verlander, even coming off of Tommy John, I think he's going to command a solid amount of money. And I think for sure, he's probably there's no way he signs more than a 2-year deal. If he signs a 3-year deal, I think I'm going to guess Boris is his agent with the stature that he is. Boris got him a hell of a deal. He's going to be pitching for a competitor. He's going to be pitching for a team that's ready to go next season. I think it'd be really cool. Like I wish, going back to 2017 that we had gotten Verlander at the deadline over Quintana. But it just doesn't, to me, with the Cubs competitive window, line up right now. So I'm really intrigued by Syndergaard and what his ceiling could still be. I also think getting creative. I remember it was tossed around. I saw it like a few weeks ago, trading for Tyler Glasnow.
Yep.
Tyler Glasnow is going to be rehabbing all next season. Presumably all of next season from Tommy John, and that's salary that the small market Rays probably aren't going to want to pay. The Cubs have a lot of prospects, and I'm not saying we have to part ways with one of the top prospects, but the Rays obviously are savvy with their minor league guys. They probably have eyes on guys in the Cubs system that they'd be willing to make that deal for. And I would be surprised if the Cubs don't get him. I'd be surprised if Glasnow isn't dealt. After I saw that laid out and heard that argument, I thought that made sense. And the Cubs have the salary cap, and then they'd get one more season out of him, one full healthy season. So I think that intrigues me the most out of pitchers that could be on the radar.
So you're saying that he would potentially rehab next year?
Yep.
So it'd be a plan for 2023?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Unless he rehabs and he could come back towards the end of the
part
next
of the
year.
but
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. But the real push would be for 2023.
Man.
Interesting.
I really don't want to sign.
Which I think lines up more real. I think it lines up more realistically with when the Cubs are. We should expect them to be competitive. Like I think next year, if all things go well, you could maybe see like a Giants type situation. But everything really went exactly how it had to go for the Giants this year.
Really looking for more like turnkey players. You can just plug in the lineup. You don't have to like nurse them back to health.
I think you're looking at the Cubs trying to pull off a 2012, 2013, getting Scott Feldman, and flipping those and getting Jake Arrieta, getting like those type of guys. And it worked out. Jed and Theo have done it before. Jed could do it again. And I haven't even really dove into who they could trade for, because there are those names out there. As far as like getting guys for like 2 to 3 year deals in the free agent market, the only guys I see that could possibly be that is Syndergaard and Verlander. A lot of the other guys, maybe Carlos Rodon, but I think he's going to probably ask for maybe a little bit more. Their Scherzer, I think, he's going to be really spendy. Gossman, I think, is going to get his money. I think he's earned it this year. John Gray is a name that I think the Cubs could possibly get, but I don't know if they're going to, they really liked him in the draft that was in the same one as Chris Bryant. I don't know if they're going to go there. Another name that's going to be available. Do I want to say it? Trevor Bauer. Do we want to go down that road of all that mess, the baggage that's going to be on with him?
He may not be available to pitch.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be available. I think everything's going to clear up in the courts. I'm not saying he did what he did or didn't. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But I bet you he will be on a major league roster next year.
So you don't think he'll be in the California Penal League?
Nope.
Not for stealing a car.
Nope. I think he's going to be in a major league uniform next year. I think it's going to come with a lot of controversy. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a team that's going to taking a huge chance. I think it's going to be one of those teams.
I have a question about that.
Watch the White Sox do it. I could see that be a White Sox thing.
Actually, yeah.
So if the Dodgers win the World Series this year, did he play enough games to get a ring, or
he gets a ring? Yeah,
I think he does. Yeah.
Just curious.
Wow.
I'm calling it now that the White Sox will sign Trevor Bauer. Just put that down.
If they starting pitching hasn't looked great for them in this short run so far. So if they see that that's where they need depth, it would definitely, everything else aside that's on his plate right now, that is a sign that definitely makes sense for the White Sox.
They'll probably pay for his extracurricular activities.
Yep.
Just keep that part of him happy.
As an aside, as we're going, the Rays have just tied the game
I
against
saw
the Red
that.
Sox. My goodness.
I can't decide who I'm pulling for. I
Right?
can't decide.
I just
kinda
want
the Rays
a
to get it,
fifth
but-
game. That's what I'm cheering for. I want a fifth
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I want that's what I want.
I'm going for the Red Sox.
All right, let's move on. I mean, I don't know if we got anywhere with our who we're gonna really want to
I think
sign.
what we found out is none of us are intelligent enough to figure out what the intelligent choice is.
No, we're not. Jake, what are you
I don't think
drinking
there's an
there?
obvious choice.
No,
What'd you
Is
say?
that
I
Earl
agree.
Grey? What do you got? Nice Earl Grey there?
It's a nice peppermint tea. It actually is peppermint tea. I'm a dork.
Tasty
tea
hot
guy.
beverager, Sheldon Cooper.
Tea, gross.
Sheldon Cooper.
Hey, I'm recovering
Trash
from
water.
a hangover from a wedding this weekend. So
Oh, yeah, touche.
All right, well, let's
sir.
go. Let's go. Position players. Who I'll just open it up. Position players. Outfield, infield. Who do you think would be a good? I mean, there are a lot of holes in this lineup. I mean, I consider
Okay.
maybe 3 guys that we have that are legit major league players that we have currently on this team that probably deserve a spot. Who do we need to fill in and go after?
I would take Starling Marte, Big Stick Nick, and then in the infield, I would either go after Corey Seager or Trevor Story.
Interesting.
yeah, I haven't been shy about wanting Seager. I mean, aside from Cubs players, he's probably who I've tweeted about the most this season. Just calling for the Cubs to be competitive and signing him. I think he profiles as the bat that you really want. I know the big thing on him is injuries. You know, he had a broken hand. He tore his UCL. So he had Tommy John. I mean, those are two injuries that you don't expect to see from position players. I mean, obviously, broken hand is a freak accident, and to some extent, so could the torn UCL be. I am all in on Seager. I don't think, unfortunately, they're going to make that move. But that's the big guy that stands out to me for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see him go after. For me, I feel like it's a stretch, but because I think he's going to command a lot. But I'd love to see him go after Castellanos. I'd love to see him back. I'm interested. I guess I'm interested to see if they will take a chance and not sign one of the shortstops. Will they take a chance with Madrigal and Horner and hope one of them goes, and they'll, the phrasing will be it wasn't intelligent to go after one of those big shortstops, even though there's a whole bunch of them, or they'll go with somebody they can get on the cheap. For some reason, I don't know. That's just rolling around in my head. I would want them to sign somebody, but I could see them not. Unfortunately, I see a lot of names in the outfield that don't really make me like go, oh, that's awesome. Like McCutchen. Like I liked watching him when he played for other teams, but I don't necessarily want to watch him play for the Cubs. He kind of seems. Look at him and I look at Hayward. And I see some pretty elderly bats potentially running around.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. I do not see them signing a shortstop. I think they're going to roll the dice and see what they have in Horner at shortstop because they didn't get to see it this year. I think they want to see what they have just to see if he can. And if he can't, then they're going to figure out plan B. Let's move him around and see who else we have in the minor league system. We have all these shortstops. Who's going to rise to the top? And they're going to kind of try to push through the system fast. So that's why I think that is going to happen. I would not expect the Cubs to sign one of the top shortstops. So
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm looking at the list right now. And I actually think that I agree that they're going to want to give Horner some run. And I want to see it long run or a long leash at shortstop. But they've got to have a backup plan. And the last thing that I want to see is them rush a young guy. And I don't even think like Andy Weber is one guy that we saw, like he's kind of a utility guy, like a 26-year-old or so. But I don't know if he's got like what it takes to be that backup guy. Like he's probably like a net negative bat, but like you look at the list right here, we've got Freddie Galvis, who had a solid season, and Jose Iglesias, who I actually kind of wanted the Cubs to pursue on like a 1-year contract. He's a solid glove and he's a decently reliable bat at shortstop. So I do think they're going to sign. They're like a handful of veteran shortstops. And I think one of them is going to be picked up as a backup option just in case.
That is an interesting idea. Picking up somebody who could sit there for a year and, like you said, like, give Horner that run at it. I hadn't thought of like looking for a 1-year guy and who.
And that's why I think Miguel Rojas, not Danny Rojas, Miguel Rojas could fill that need. Like I when the Cubs played the Marlins in the playoffs and you watched how he was the leader of that team. Like he was the leader of that young Marlins team. That could they bring him in to kind of be a little bit of a leader. He's played with big teams. He's been around it, plays a really good shortstop. His stick's okay. Could they put him in there and kind of platoon him in there with Nico? I don't know. I think that would be a possibility. You might get him pretty cheap.
He's a utility guy, and from what I've heard, he's super well respected as a teammate and just around the league. So, yeah, if he what did you say? There's an op? Does he have an
is a $5.5 million option for 2022. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Does he think he can get more in the market? I don't know, but that would be one that it would be very interesting to see if he came available. Would they take that look and see? Another guy that I have been interested in, and just because I've heard his name kind of floating out there as more of a backup role for Contreras, is Tucker Barnhart from the Reds. I heard his name floated as a possible trade chip. You just saw Contreras. We need a backup catcher. I'm really concerned about what type of player we're going to get out Contreras 3 years from now because of all the wear and tear that he's been on his knees.
He's cut a lot of innings.
The last 3 years, he's taken just a beating behind the plate. And you can see every year his production by halfway point starts dropping because he has nothing left in his legs to drive and hit. And so we need somebody back there, especially if there's a DH coming our way, that we could always funnel Contreras into that DH. That's why I thought the 2020 season was great, because it allowed us to do that. We put Contreras in the DH sometimes when Vic caught. So, I mean, that's something I think would be interesting to see if the Cubs pursue that. Relief pitchers, Chafin's going to be available probably. Familia, Sean Doolittle, and then Lorenzen. Those are kind of the guys that I had on my list of like, these would be maybe good arms that are all prove it guys, except for Chafin. Chafin's kind of prove it. The other three, they need to kind of prove something, and they could be kind of filling that role as these young guys in our minor league system, that our bullpen minor league system stacked until they get a little bit more experience, that they could kind of fill that need in the bullpen.
I like Lorenzen. They were thinking about putting him in the rotation before he got injured before the season started.
Yep.
And I thought I picked him up in fantasy. I thought he was going to have a breakout season, and then of course I don't think he played. He maybe played one game, but I still like him as an option for sure. I think he could be signed for the Chiefs.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what Jed does. See how it's gonna come a lot, I think, down to that GM search, what type of guy that they get, and what voice he has in making these decisions. It's gonna be big deal. But we talked a little bit about the playoffs. Man, have you guys been watching a lot of the playoffs?
A little bit. I'll probably really get locked in when they go to the championship series. Some of the games I want to watch that they happen while I'm still at work, with the exception of the Red Sox tonight. But I'm the broadcast for some of these. Like, I hate Ron Darling. It's just terrible.
What was the one game they had, like Bob Costas in like?
I hate Bob Costas too.
two old guys, like, okay, if you want to bring the next generation of baseball fan in to watch, that's not who you start with. That gets the like 50 and above generation to like tune in. But the next generation, like, you need a guy like Boog. You need a guy like that is entertaining, that can like really play to the youth.
Relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching them on and off. Man, the Red Sox have just been surprising me. Like, I thought the Rays were gonna kind of blow through this series, and the Red Sox, they're hitting. I didn't really watch them a whole lot. I just watched the line score, but yeah, they are keeping up, and they're keeping the Rays on their heels. They keep just kind of hitting, knocking pitchers out, kind of going nuts, and it's always lovely to see Schwarber out there doing his thing. I don't remember if you brought it up during the podcast, but him committing that error the other night, and then when he actually successfully threw it to first base, that big celebration. Like,
Yeah.
the guy's learning to play first base during the playoffs.
Well, not only that, but guess who is starting at first base tonight for the Giants?
Chris Bryant.
Is that
Chris Bryant.
Apparently, maybe somebody should have been trading for Frank Schwindel.
That played in the playoffs this year.
Hey, if it tells us anything, it tells us that we've got a first baseman in our system. Like, those guys all play other positions. People are like, oh, we got to go out and sign a top tier free agent first baseman. No, you don't. There's a dude that's not a very good defender that can hit the crap out of the ball in our system somewhere that will slot at first base at some point.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Wasn't it Hap talking about on the compound? There was an episode or something. I think Dakota was giving him crap because he used to have to take infield with like Rizzo or something like that, and he was like, I don't want to wear him off my chest. Like he like avoids that like the plague. And it's like, yeah, but you actually know how to play the bag when you know the need's there.
Yeah.
See what happens.
But it's been fun. Like, when you just look at the playoffs so far, Jock Peterson has 2 dingers. Anthony Rizzo had a dinger. Chris Bryant had a dinger. Kyle Schwarber has 2 dingers.
Hang on. Anthony Rizzo's bat has 2 dingers.
Has 3 plus
dingers.
His.
Oh, right.
Plus Jock's.
Plus Jocks.
It's like ex-Cubs players left and right. Just, I mean, it's fun because of the storylines for us as Cubs fans. We can really engage in and watch and enjoy. But you're still thinking like, okay, if we would have kept these guys,
right?
What could have been? Like,
that was what was going around. It was like, imagine a team that has Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo,
Kyle Schwarber, Jock Peterson,
all on it. Imagine a team like that. It's like,
that'd be a good team. That'd be a playoff team for sure.
Yeah. And you got to love the Sox still throwing Kimbrel out there in the 8th and blaming him for the gaff in the center field or whatever.
Oh my God, that the route to that ball was brutal. And I didn't see that like in the moment when people were tweeting about it. I saw it the next day, and the fact that people were on Kimbrel for that's on Leary Garcia. 2 outs, and that's a very playable ball.
Yep.
And the spin around to
yeah.
Ugly. That looks like me out there in slow pitch softball. Oh my gosh.
You probably look better though. You probably look a little bit better.
Not the first couple games of the season.
By the 3rd game of the night, he's ready to go after he gets his like 6th beer in. He's
a couple pseudo-sues and I'm ready to go.
But like, there's been some pretty controversial things going on in like games last night with the Red Sox with the ground rule double hitting off the player, and it's like, and going over the fence, and kind of a judgment call with the umps. And then the White Sox game, I mean, they get their first 3 runs of that game because Grandal gets hit with the ball when he hits it to first base. Base is loaded. First baseman throws it, hits him with the ball, goes past the catcher, and they score 2 runs. It's like, no replay, no nothing. Go on. It's like, it's crazy that those type of things always seem to happen in the playoffs. Always the things that like never happen in baseball always seem to come up, make it even more exciting.
Yeah, I'm waiting for more teams to use the strategy of, oh, that ball's going over the outfielder's head, just scoop it into the stands.
Yeah.
We'll give them 2 bases. We're not giving them any more.
So who do you guys got winning it all? Make your prediction.
God, I really want it to be the Red Sox. If it's not the Cubs, it's the Red Sox for me.
I think people are sleeping on the Braves.
Ooh.
I think from the start, people were sleeping on the Braves. I think they got hot at the right time. I think when their offense is clicking, it's damn good. Ian Anderson, their number 3, looked great today.
I could go for a Red Sox Braves series.
That'd be fun.
Now just think if Acuna was there.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
They'd be nuts.
Yeah, I'm a big. I don't know. I think I brought it up on the podcast. My dad's always followed Chicago sports. My mom was born out by San Francisco, so she's always wanted me to follow San Francisco sports. So I've always been a Giants fan, along with the Cubs. Just kept it secluded and down low. So I think the
I don't
Giants.
know if we'd be friends.
It's all right,
I know.
Kevin.
I wear a
I'm
49ers shirt to the gym, and Jeff always is like, take it off, or I'm ripping it off. Like,
I'll wipe my ass with it, Kevin.
Well, I did wear my San Francisco Giants hat to CrossFit the other day because I was like, well, it's playoffs. I've made my allegiance known now. Playoffs, I'm going to cheer for the Giants. So,
yeah, I thought the Rays were going to go all the way, but the Red Sox are kind of going nuts. I thought the Rays would be in the World Series. I want the Giants. That's one of those, like, as a fan, I want the Giants to win, but I thought the Rays were the team.
Any team that's got a former Cub on it.
that's all of them. I think, is the Brewers the only team?
Probably.
Daniel Vogelbach, does he count?
Oh, but he's hurt. He's hurt. He's not. He didn't make the roster.
Who's on the
playoff
roster?
No, he came in to pinch hit today.
Oh, did he? He came
Really?
back?
Yeah.
I thought you. Yeah. I don't think the Rays have a Cubs player.
Probably
I
not.
don't think the Rays do.
I saw Vogelbach play in Des Moines.
I mean, the Astros have Dusty Baker, so
Yeah, I saw Vogelbach play a ton for Iowa back in the day.
yeah.
Wait, didn't we have Martin Maldonado for a hot minute last year?
Yes, we did.
He's on the
It was like 3 games.
Yeah. And Chris Archer, I think, is injured for the Rays.
For the Rays.
Former Cubs farmhand.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true.
So
For a
that's
hot
what it
minute.
was. I was looking up the free
6
agents.
degrees of Kevin DeBacon right here.
I was looking up free agents and I saw Chris Archer pop up and it said Tampa Bay. I was like, he plays for Tampa Bay this year? I didn't even realize that he played for Tampa Bay the whole year. I was like, in my mind, I was still thinking they played for the Pirates.
The Pirates.
I was like, oh, he's back with them now. Okay. That's one where I to go back with free agents. I saw this picture and it's of a record player and it says does not work, but could be fun to fix. And I was like, this better not be Jed's method for free agency this summer or this winter of like, oh, this will be a fun scrap heap and get like a Chris Archer type that is definitely broken. But yeah, I didn't even realize he was with the Rays. I'm gonna be cheering for, I think, the Giants out of the NL. And I mean, it's fun to watch the Rays. Like, I mean, the battle between them and the Red Sox, it's been back and forth, like constant. And Randy, oh my goodness, blanking on his name. Rosarina is so fun to watch. Him stealing home and hitting a bomb in the same game, and that he was a former Cardinal. I love that. They got some arms in their staff is really good. They're just been kind of fun to watch. So that's who I'm kind of cheering for. Who's on the other side? We got White Sox and Astros. I could care less about either one of those two.
I just don't. Like
I'm not one that's
Astros.
going to cheer against the White Sox because I'm a Cubs fan. I do not like the Cardinals. I know, Jake, you're from Chicago. Your rival, or you probably look at more White Sox. Is that who?
No, I can't stand the thought process of people saying like, oh, I hate the White Sox. Like, we don't even play meaningful games against them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of really good friends from high school that are huge Sox fans, and I want the Sox to win for them. They don't care. They don't want the Cubs to win for me. But
they're not that
seems
sensitive.
like
You're a better
Iowa
friend,
State,
Jake.
Iowa
You're
fan
definitely a
kinda
better
thing.
friend.
I mean, it's like, I don't know. I do hope this is a topic for another day, but I do hope someday that there's divisional realignment and the Cubs White Sox
I thought that was you that tweeted that. Like,
I've talked about it a lot. I thought I had a draft written up about it. Ken Rosenthal did a really great piece about like MLB expansion and like the realignment of the divisions. And I think it would be so damn good for the sport of baseball. But no, I am not anti-White Sox at all.
I'm anti-Cardinal. Living in central Iowa, Iowa, there's so many Cardinals fans, and they're always like,
Quick jag-offs.
We have this guy at the gym.
Jag-off.
One, he's not listening. He's a douche anyway.
You
Like,
wouldn't know how to find a podcast anyway.
he's this big ex-college football player that like just he cheats in CrossFit all the time. D3 football player. Wasn't, yeah, but he thinks he should have played D1 and went to the NFL. But like just arrogant, annoying, like bro reps all the time. But he's a huge Cardinals fan. And back in July, he said they were going to make the playoffs. And I was like, no way. And then when they did, I was like, he was right. That really pisses me off, like really bad. Like Dodgers, you have to. I hate the Dodgers, but I was like, you have to. Because he was like, he was talking crap the other day about the Cubs bought their 2016 World Series championship. I was like, we had Chris Bryant, we drafted Javi Baez, we drafted Soler, we drafted. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, if you're talking about buying championships, every team pays a salary to a player. So that means every team buys a championship. So shut up about like buying a championship. It's like, look at your team. You went and traded for Goldschmidt. You went and traded for Arenado. You're not like producing all these like homegrown players. Like some of them are. So like, he got me hot. I think like Kevin was watching from a distance. Like
I watched that and I was like,
turned
that's
and looked,
gonna
I'm
be a
like,
train wreck. I'm walking away.
Why is Mitch even wasting his time talking to that brick wall?
I was like, I have to. Got me hot. So I was like, that was the day that the Dodgers and Cardinals were playing, and so I was like driving home all fired. I was like, dang it, Dodgers, you got to come through for me. You got it.
Go Dodgers.
It's the same. It's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't want the Brewers to win. Because living in Wisconsin, like there's not a huge contingency of Brewers fans. Like there is obviously, but it's more of like the little brother syndrome where like the Brewers are picking like even their social media because it fuels the fans' fire, right? That they pick on the Cubs and they don't let Illinois people they don't let you buy Cubs Brewers tickets at American Family Field unless you live in Wisconsin. Just like that kind of like petty, stupid stuff. I don't know. Like I've never like had a bad run-in with a Brewers fan, but just like the general like bad taste it leaves in my mouth. I just want to be able to keep holding that over their heads because they can get kind of rude when we leave the stadium and we're losing.
Well, I've been to a Cubs Brewers game in Milwaukee, and we've won both times I've went there. So,
I mean, generally Wisconsinites are good, are friendly people. But
next year, we need to get you to get us tickets, and all of us go to a Cubs Brewers game in Milwaukee.
I'm down.
Tailgate,
we're doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
That'd be a fun one to go to.
That would be fun.
All right. Well, that does it for episode 39 or 59. 59. We're almost at 60. So there we go.
Hey.
Of the Dingers podcast. We're going to be doing these every so often during the off season. Got some interviews. We were supposed to have Brendan Davis on tonight, but he texted me and he's like,
apparently Hawaii
hey, after the game or after the season, I took a vacation to Hawaii. And I was like, all right, I know you've been grinding all season,
but
well deserved. This cannot happen again. You need to give me a little bit more heads up. I had planned. I was like, I'll let it pass this time, but you enjoy your vacation. So he's having a fun time in Hawaii, and hopefully we can get him on in the next couple of weeks and have a final interview with Brendan Davis. But we have some other interviews lined up. We're trying to get somebody to break down all the CBA when that thing goes down. That's going to be something in December. That's going to be really fun to kind of break down. I think it's going to change kind of the landscape of baseball. Hopefully we get a deal done and we don't hit a strike. But yeah, it's a lot to do this off season, a lot to talk about. So we'll get into it here on the Dingers podcast for all the Cubs and Major League Baseball news. So thanks for joining us for episode 59 of the Dingers podcast.